Personally, the UFCR extends a huge thank you, not just to our speakers today, but to every single one of you that has come. I know some of you guys have come from a little bit, some distance, some people came from Ocala, I believe, maybe even further. With that being said, I'm going to keep my, my opening statements here short and brief. I know you want to hear them, you don't want to hear me. My name is Michael Andre. I am the president of the UF College Republicans. We honestly we're really honored to have these four speakers here tonight, and I think that it's important that despite the fact that there may have been an endorsement from the president for a candidate, that anybody else who would like to not just throw their hat in the ring, but make a serious go at the Florida governorship, they have some pretty big shoes to fill, Lord knows, with Ron DeSantis. But I've known James for a little bit now, and I really like what he has to say, and I think you guys will too. So with that being said, I hope you all enjoy the event. Thank you all for coming, and you guys go ahead and take it away.
Everybody introduce themselves, I suppose.
It is an honor to be here this evening, to be back at UF. I walked these halls as a high school debater for the Blue Key tournament my freshman year, and it's good to be back here. It's good to be here because, let's be honest, there's a lot at stake right now in the country. I'm just going to say it. Not all Republicans are the same. The sooner we just get that out there and say that not all Republicans are the same, we can actually get to the meat of it. Number one, if you're a Republican and you take money from AIPAC, you're not the same. Right off the bat. If you're a Republican, you take money from Blackstone, BlackRock, companies that come into our communities and buy up our homes, that deny us the American dream. When my dad was growing up in the 1960s, half of men were married and owned their home. Today, less than 15% of men are married and owned their home. You guys can do everything right here at UF. You guys can get good grades, have great recommendations, have great internships, but when it's time to enter the job market, you can be passed up because a company wants to, whether it's Deloitte or Accenture or a bank, it doesn't matter, can import cheap foreign slave labor from India instead and tell you that no, you don't get to be an American in your own country. Crazy idea. The premise of our entire campaign is that it shouldn't be this hard to be an American in America. It's very easy to be an illegal immigrant in America. Aaron will tell you they'll give you an Obama phone on the new Ellis Island. They'll give you food stamps, doesn't matter if you're an illegal. They'll give you a $700 a night hotel room. But it's about time that we as conservatives confront the fact that it's not just illegal immigration that is a threat, an existential threat to our country. It is also this thing called legal immigration. For all the fake news around what happened in Springfield last fall, there's only one thing the media got right. The Haitians there were not illegals. They were here legally. They got temporary protected status first under Obama, then under Trump 1, then extended under Biden. If you drop off 50 million Somalis right here in Florida and say it's legal because of refugee status or an asylum claim, does that make it okay? Of course not. I'm in this race for governor very simply to be an America First candidate. I'm in this race for governor to make it easier for you guys to get a great paying job, to buy a home, to marry a God-fearing woman, or if you're a woman, a God-fearing man, and then when it's all said and done, to retire with dignity. And there's one thing that in the last couple of weeks has really threatened you guys right here. That's the prospect of 600,000 Chinese foreign students coming to our country. Now, we're the third largest state. We got some of the best schools in the country. We're going to have a debate about UF, FSU at a different date. But as the third largest state, we would be expected to take upwards of 50, 60,000 Chinese students in our state. Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that the state government has control over the issuance of foreign visas for Chinese students. But I'm also not going to sit here and wave my hands and act helpless in the face of a literal existential invasion in our homeland. Here's my commitment to you. Elect me Florida's next governor, and on my first day, I will direct our state universities, our publicly funded, taxpayer-funded state universities, to raise tuition on every foreign student to $1 million a year. Now, this is H2O, and H2O is a lot better than H1 Byron, but I digress. Look, the truth is, we have federalism for a reason. The federal government did not create the state government created the federal government. The 10th Amendment is perhaps the most underappreciated right that we have. That anything that is not explicitly given to the feds is left for the states and her people. That's us. And so I'm sorry, if you're going to have foreign students come here from anywhere in the world, they're going to refuse to speak our language. They're going to take, and we all know people in our own lives, brothers, sisters, neighbors, siblings, classmates, who got great test scores, got a great GPA, but couldn't get into UF, couldn't get into USF, couldn't get into UCF, couldn't get into UWF and elsewhere. And now they're stuck. But you got foreign students, and look, I don't blame them, although I have no sympathy for them, but I don't blame them for wanting to take advantage of the system. They're not inherently bad people. But the truth is, for every foreign student at UF or at any publicly funded university here in Florida is an opportunity for someone right here from our state, from our country, who has actually contributed and who is in a position to come here and learn and train and go back to wherever they came from, whether that's Escambia County, where I live now in Madison, where I grew up in Broward, to go back to those communities and do something great. And so we're not going to sit here and pretend that we as a state don't have rights of our own. And I respect President Trump. I told him the night before I announced my run. It's a week ago. It's crazy to see so much has happened in that period of time. But I told him that we elected you by 1.5 million points, 1.5 million votes, because you worked to earn your votes here in Florida. You didn't phone it in like crazy Kamala did. You actually came here to earn our votes. You took nothing for granted. And we can have disagreements with the president and some of his advisors, which have completely lost their mind. Some of them are complete globalist shills, to be completely honest, that are bought and paid for by foreign countries. One in particular. But the truth is, he won Florida by 13 points because he worked for it. I am here tonight because I will never ask you to blindly trust me. I am here tonight to ask you for the opportunity to earn your trust, and then after that, to earn your vote. As I ended in my campaign announcement video, Florida is our home. America is our birthright, and we will never let them steal it from us. Thank you.
Well, first of all, I greatly appreciate everyone being here. I mean, what a great audience. I don't think we were expecting this many people, and I'm sure some of the media will say that 12 people showed up and 7 of them left early. I never had the intention to be in the political realm at all. What happened was, during the last presidential election, I started spending a lot of time on the ground in Pennsylvania because I never bought into the hype that Florida was a purple state or that Kamala was ever going to win Florida. I knew that that was BS. Turn off your mainstream news, it's not going to happen. So I have family in Maryland and Pennsylvania, so I started spending a lot of time there. And I saw what a difference it could make on the ground, the actual ground game. I don't know how many of you were out knocking doors, making phone calls, sending text messages, but that's what makes the difference in a campaign. My dad reminded me earlier today The last Democratic governor that we had in this state was Lawton Chiles. Do you know how he became famous? He walked from Pensacola to Key West, 1,003 miles, and earned every single vote. I can guarantee you, my opponent, who is one of the worst of the worst of the worst, if you know who my opponent is.
Randy Fine. He's not walking anywhere.
The entire point is the four of us want to earn your vote. We want you to be educated. We want you to be better voters. And for heaven's sake, we want you to go vote in the Republican primary. Because if you don't go vote in the primary, this is all for naught. Every single person sitting in here, if you don't go vote in the Republican primary, shame on you, because that is where we can make a difference. If you look at my congressional district, which starts in Putnam County, so it's not that far, and it goes down to Lake County, over to Daytona Beach, up to St. Augustine. In the primary, about 35,000 people voted for the Republican, for Randy Fine. That's out of about 900,000 people. So you're talking about 4% of our population determines who governs us. So we have two options. We can either govern ourselves, or we can let someone else govern for us. That doesn't make sense. Every single person in this room is here because you want your government to be better. We certainly agree that there's one country in particular that causes quite a bit of ire, but I'll go a step further. There should not be any foreign influence in our politics. It doesn't matter if it's Israel, it doesn't matter if it's Qatar. It drives me, excuse my language, batshit crazy that they can give President Trump a $400 million plane, and 2 months later, now we're going to have a Qatari air base in Colorado. If there's anyone here that's happy with that, you're probably in the wrong room. We simply want foreign influence out of our politics. We want to be able to dictate where we spend our money and who we spend it on. We want to spend it on the people in this room. We want every single person in this room to have a better future. The poverty rate in my congressional district is 3.5 points higher than the national average. I do not want to send another penny anywhere in the world until I have 0 homeless veterans in my congressional district. And if that's too much to ask, well, you can call me whatever name you want, but that's where I stand. So I really appreciate you, every single person being here. I look forward to your questions, and I'm sure we'll continue a vibrant discussion.
Yeah, well, yes, thanks everybody for being here. And just to piggyback on what James and Aaron have already touched on, I'd like to point out the fact that these problems that we're addressing, whether it's homelessness, veterans issues, whether it's foreign influence, whether it's the decline of education, these are all slow trains. These problems have existed for a really long time, and our parents and their parents and their parents, generation after generation, we've allowed these problems to get worse. It is actually our inaction that has driven all these problems to exist in the first place, and it is only our action which causes them to be resolved. So, this isn't my district. I'm quite a ways outside of my district. Is this your district here? No, this is none of us are district. Most people in here can't vote for us, maybe for James here, but they can't vote for the rest of us. And what excites me to come out here so much is to share with the message of involvement in your government. If you think you've done enough for your government, look where your government's at. You should look in the mirror and realize you haven't. And that's what drives me to run. I started my career in the military. I learned the hard way what service actually means. I've spent 4 years in Afghanistan. I spent 1.5 years in Iraq. And I spent a lot of time working with the Marine Corps, teaching them biometrics to the Marine Corps. And so my life has kind of been rooted around service. But I think back on it now, and it seems more like it was misguided service. A 20-year war that didn't lead anywhere is not really true service when you really look back and think on it. And a lot of veterans feel this exact same way. They feel like they wasted their time and their effort and their energy and put their lives on the line for something that simply wasn't worth it. And so what I've found as I watched these problems get out of control, I watched the partisanship continue to get more inflammatory, I'm realizing this is the service that my country needed from me all along. And it's not just me, it takes entire communities working together. You know, one thing I'm really focused on is building grassroots campaigns, getting volunteers to start getting more engaged and more active, getting citizens to earn the government that they want, not just expect somebody else to bring it for them. So, you know, I'm really big on pushing mental health. I'm really big on the homeless issue as well. You know, you're going to find most of these issues I agree with everybody in this room on. But at the end of the day, my drive is to get the community more involved and get folks to understand you get what you pay for with politics, which is why we get nothing. And we need to start looking at that a little bit differently and finding out ways that we can participate more effectively.
It would be easy to just say same, right? Whatever those guys just said. No, my name's Mike Wilnau. Same thing as they said, it's a pleasure for you guys to all be here. I'm honored to speak to all of you. I'm not that much older than most of you in this room. I'm 27. I'm an elder Zoomer. But I had an awakening moment not too long ago. I'll be completely honest with you, hey, turn that off. I was kind of black-pilled. You know, I was ready for everything to just fall apart, right? I think there's a lot of people that shared that same sentiment. Just waiting for, you know, essentially the first shot to be fired, right? But I have 4 kids. I'm married. I own my own home. You know? Super expensive. But here's the thing, you know, when I looked at my little kid's eyes, I thought, man, I have to do everything within my power to prevent it. I have to do everything that I can to fight for the future that I know that they deserve, because nobody else is. You know, you look at career politicians, look at these establishment guys, they don't care about us. They don't care about anyone in this room, not really. Just enough to get your vote. And that's it. It's why they run on things that pull at our heartstrings. You know, they talk about the cost of living, and then they turn around and say it's a Democrat hoax. That's messed up. You know, if I'm going to vote for you, I expect you to do the things that you say you're going to do, and they never do, because the incentive structure is not there for them. Well, it is for me. It means too much. And we're coming up on 250 years next year of this country declaring independence. So what are the next 250 years going to look like? Well, it's kind of up to us, right? Piggybacking off of what Marcus said, our inaction is going to be far more consequential than any mistake we might make along the way. And it's comfier to sit on the couch. It's way easier to just sit there and wait for somebody else to do the right thing. But what if it's you? What if it's me? What if it's us? It is. It is all of you. It is all of us. So we have to do the things that politicians refuse to do, and that's number one, serve the people. That's all I got. Thanks, guys.
If I could just add a point to that. I know one of the things, and you'll agree with me, we did not understand how important it is to vote in a Republican primary.
It's the real election.
It's
real election.
That's it. In the state of Florida, that's it. I didn't understand that, you know, I thought, okay, well, I know President Trump is going to win, so I don't need to go vote in the primary. So the last primary, I didn't go vote, okay? Well, the last primary for the special election that I ran in, I did. I went and voted for myself. But the general election before that, we did not understand how important it is to vote in the primary. So we have to convey that message to you. We need every one of you to get out there and make a difference. And I know most of you probably are not registered to vote here. You're probably registered to vote somewhere across the state where you live. So that message can spread out all the way across the state.
Yeah.
I mean, primary voting has been historically low. It really is one of those benchmarks for us to kind of look in the mirror and ask ourselves, yeah, we're not doing our job. We're not doing what we need to. In my district, 18% of voters voted in the primary election. And, you know, what we were already touching on this is that if you have such a low percentage of people voting, who's actually choosing who you vote for in the general election. You don't really aren't really giving yourself a choice. You're allowing whoever's plugged in and established and who knows how to pull strings and play the game. They're choosing who you select in your general election. So you don't really have a voice. You know, you've heard of the uniparty. Where's that uniparty come from? This is how they wedge themselves in. They win those primary elections and they don't have to worry about it. No matter who's on the general ballot, whoever is compromised is whoever makes it there, and then that's who we're left to choose from. You know.
And then they take it for granted.
Yeah.
And the way to underscore how important primaries are, I'm not suggesting that you not vote in the general election in November. But just to tell you how important primaries are, if you had to choose between voting in the primary and voting in the general, vote in the primary. Because remember, if you vote in the primary, you're actually going to elevate a candidate that represents your vision, our vision for America. If you don't vote in the primary and elevate that vision, you're going to have one globalist shill versus another globalist shill. One with a D next to the name, one with an R next to the name. It's the same thing. Look, the truth is that in all likelihood, a Republican is going to be the next governor of Florida. That is no consolation for any of you, because if that's not a Republican that's aligned with the right vision for our country, that doesn't apologize for our history, that doesn't play games with foreign countries, that actually puts our people first, that doesn't sell you guys out to H-1Bs, that doesn't welcome in thousands upon thousands of foreign students right here to UF, it doesn't matter if they're a Republican. They're not aligned with our vision for the country. And so, again, crazy to say, but if you had to choose voting in the general versus voting in the primary, you would vote in the primary every single time. Why? Because it's the one that really counts. And so I'm saying vote in both. I'm just trying to illustrate that point. And look, our opponents, I think we speak for all of us, Aaron, our opponents, they've got money. That's precisely why they're compromised. I got a lot of flack for saying that Byron Donalds was a slave, but I'm not going to apologize for it. If he wants me to stop calling him a slave, he can give the money back to AIPAC. He can give the money back to his corporate donors. And if you wanted to get into the historical ancestry of it all, his dad's from Panama and his mom's from Belize. He's a first-generation immigrant. He has no direct descendants from American slavery anyway. So I don't see how that could be racist in any event. But the truth is, they've got money, we've got people. It's that simple. We've got you guys, and we're not going to take you for granted. We're not going to come up here. Is Benny Johnson up here? No, is Benny Johnson up here to give... Look, I like Benny. I think a lot of what he puts out is slop. Right? It turns out any of the influencers who were getting paid to put $7,000 posts up or went to Qatar, they went to Qatar during Thanksgiving. Do you realize that? They went to Qatar during Thanksgiving in America. That is perhaps the sickest, most disgraceful analogy for these people. And it's no different if you were to take a paid trip to any other foreign country. And so here's what you all can do. If you are aligned with our candidacies, to our vision, we ask you to do two things. We're going to take questions in a moment. Do two things. Post about tonight on social media. Post a pic of us, of the crowd. We'll take selfies afterward with you guys. Post a pic about tonight because you guys know you're going to get 100, 150 views on your story, on your Instagram post, at least. If you're girls, you'll get 1,000.
Is that how that works?
If you're a guy and you change your profile picture between now and December, you'll get 1,000. And then talk to 3 people. And I don't mean Republicans, because even though we have a closed primary in Florida, it's only open for registered Republicans. You can register to be a Republican in the weeks before our primary. And that would be my pitch to even a Democrat who we actually have a lot in common with, in some cases relative to these establishment uniparty Republicans. Even if that's an independent, you very simply tell them, there is a 91% chance, according to Polymarket, Florida's next governor is going to be a Republican. If you wait until the general, you are inviting your vote to be stolen from you. You are inviting disenfranchisement. And so my message to you, if you're a Democrat in the room, an independent in the room, close your eyes, register as a Republican just for a couple weeks, show up on August 18th, 2026, and vote like our state and our country depend on it, because they do.
I also want to point out one thing real quick is that, I used to not vote. I was not a voter. I lived by the school of thought that I'm not choosing the lesser of two evils. That just was the way that I thought about it. Until I recognized the fact that if that's the way that I feel about the options that I have on the ballot, then I have more of a responsibility. So I just want to add to that. Number one, it's not just governor, it's not just Congress. There's 562,000 elected positions across the United States. There's county commissions, there's school boards, there's state house, state senate. If you don't like the options, there's something more you need to be doing about it. And maybe, you guys are in college, you got, a little other things to focus on and worry about. But my biggest hope that I get out of this is to encourage folks to say, if you don't like the options on the ballot, you need to find at least yourself to run for, or somebody that you can believe to help build grassroots movements, because that is the only way that the change does happen. It happens when communities unite together and get behind something new, something different, something that's not bought and paid for by special interests. We talk about AIPAC. AIPAC pays both sides of the aisle. You should go look at what the money goes to. It goes to Republicans and Democrats alike. So people who are compromised in this way, they're not going to be looking out for our best interests. And if there's nobody on the ballot that's looking out for your best interests, the options, again, I was wrong for this. It's not to not vote. It's to put somebody else on that ballot and do everything in your power to make sure if it's not you, it's somebody you know, trust, believe in, can get behind, can work with, and can help move a movement like that forward. So that's just, that's what I wanted to add.
And the one thing is, don't be scared. Don't be scared to put your name out there. I had never run for public office before the special election. I had a group of Republicans approach me and they're like, Aaron, you do not understand how bad Randy Fine is. You do not understand. He has literally called school board members whores. His language. He has been ordered to anger management classes, went to Las Vegas, spent $15,000 of campaign funds on entertainment expenses. I'm sure every single one of us in this room would love to go to Las Vegas and spend $15,000 on entertainment expenses.
That's a lot of Cheez-Its for Randy.
Well, let's just hope it was just Cheez-Its.
I saw him walking to the cheese.
But the point is that if you don't like the options, you can do it yourself. You make a plan. You can, I guarantee you. Mike came to me and he said, Aaron, I want to run for the 6th Congressional District. And I said, okay, I'm going to take you under my wing and you're going to go to campaign events with me and I'm going to show you exactly how it's done. Fortunately, Mike lives in the 11th Congressional District, so he's going to run in the 11th Congressional District against a complete fossilized person who we don't even know if he's still alive. I mean, but this is how bad,
with a red tie.
This is how bad our Congress has gotten, or elected officials. It's not so bad in Florida because we have term limits, but
We need those in Washington.
yeah,
too.
on a federal level, we stood up because we didn't like the options out there. And we might not be the answer for you, but the only thing that we're asking is that you take the time and you do your research and you educate yourselves. That's it. And you vote in the primary.
Want some questions? Yeah.
Shift over to questions. Do a quick little audio fix here, I believe. You guys are free to ask whatever you want.
Is there like a line they're going to line up, or?
Raise hands. Yeah, it's good. Yeah. Do you have some?
Yeah. If you have a question, just raise your hand, stand up, and address it to a specific person.
Hello, my name is Jesse. Even though we are not living in a socialist hellhole, pardon my French, but capital cronyism has been a bad impact on our country. I was wondering, what is your plan to still keep the market free, but also implement the right regulations to keep people from doing bad things.
It's a great question, Jesse. Give him a round of applause. Call me crazy. The free market is a means to an end, not the end itself. If the free market was the goal, there'd be a slave auction happening in the parking lot right now. Actually, it's a free market. There's buyers, there's sellers, there's a product, there's an equilibrium market clearing price according to Greg Mankiw. The goal is not a free market. It's a free people. That is our goal. And so when you talk about standing up against socialism, now let's be honest, the courageous, bold members of the United States Congress, the do-nothing congressional Republicans, the know-nothing Democrats, had a big vote to take a couple weeks ago. They condemned socialism. And then they turned around and allowed socialism to continue by allowing H-1Bs into our country, which we pay for by our lost wages and our taxpayer benefits, by allowing Blackstone and BlackRock to have better tax treatment than to come into our communities and buy up our home, to give food stamps and healthcare to illegals and legal immigrants as well. Look, the free market works most of the time. But the truth is that if you're Blackstone, and you're coming in and you're buying up a home from a family of 3 that wants to become a family of 5, that wants to move out of a rough side of town to a better side of town to get a better paying job, to live out the full arc of the American dream, no. That whole liberty movement, it's not for you, it's for American citizens. And so when we say America first, let's not get it twisted. We don't mean America first and pervert that by saying, so long as the GDP is going up, America first is doing well. So long as the stock market is going up, that's America first. So long as the line go up, Country Club, Koch, Brother, AIPAC-backed Republicans are happy at Capitol Grill, that's America first. Look, we can sit here and say, well, it's America first to bring in 10 million illegals to pick our fruit because that means the fruit is cheaper and that benefits Americans, so America first. No, when we say America first, what are we saying? We are saying put American citizens first. We are saying to optimize for our greatest benefit. The perfect issue is with trade, for example. What do we actually care about? Do we want cheap air fryers and t-shirts from Uniqlo? Or do we want great paying jobs for our grads, high school, college, and technical school? What do you value more in that system? What do you value more? A global marketplace? A global talent pool that would make Vivek Ramaswamy blush? Or do you want American citizens to be able to exist? Everyone wants to ask, does a certain country have a right to exist? You know what has a right to exist? American citizens in their own country. They have a right to exist without it being stolen from you.
So let me give you an example on a state level that I think we're all aware of, or at least the 4 of us are aware of. In Florida, our energy prices are going to go up by about 40% in the next 4 years. That is a result of energy companies having a monopoly on the system. So what they have been allowed to do, and the state government has allowed this, is basically however the energy company gets their energy. Doesn't matter if they want to grind up seashells, however they want to get their energy, they get an 11% profit on that. Well, what they're doing right now is they're buying up all this land and putting solar farms everywhere. So in about 20 years, they're probably going to have roughly about 450,000 acres of Florida land that the energy companies now own. And guess who paid for it? Every single person sitting in this room that turns on a light bulb has paid for it. So we need smart regulation, and we need to be able to have someone on every single level of government that understands that we need to take care of the people in this room before we take care of big corporations.
That's right.
Back to the question about socialism. The way that I see this is I see capitalism and communism as polar opposites. And I see socialism as the spectrum between the two. So the more socialism you have, the closer you are to communism. The less socialism you have, the closer you are to capitalism. This is the way my mind sees. I'm just sharing that so I can kind of explain. Because let's not make a mistake. There's plenty of socialist programs in the United States that have been around. Social Security, for example, it's right in the name, Social Security. Now, I'm not necessarily an advocate for Social Security. I'm certainly not an advocate for ending Social Security. If you have any idea what ending Social Security would do to our economy right now, you would run away from that plan as quickly as possible. But you know, when it comes to making a citizenry of a country of dependent citizens, to me, that's where I see the threat is. It's not just about necessarily giving illegals. It is an American socialism first. We can't just feed American citizens all the government benefits as well. We need to put people in a position to where they don't need them, to where the government isn't in a position to say, here's your handout. This is who you are. This is what you get. So this is really where I want to push away from socialism. Now, honestly, there's a lot of, ideally speaking, let's talk about Social Security, for example. Social Security, back when it was implemented, again, I'm not saying it was a good idea or a bad idea. I'm just trying to so everybody can kind of understand be on the same place. There was a minimum threshold set. Our country, our society, everything had reached such heights that we determined that there is a minimum threshold standard for all American citizens. This is the bare minimum you can be at, and we're going to make sure that we protect that. Now, you can argue that that's a good thing or a bad thing. I would happen to argue that that's sort of, at least the idea of it is a good thing. However, making sure that we do it in an efficient and effective way is equally as important. So again, I'm not an advocate of ending Social Security or things like that. I also would I've had some discussions with these folks a little bit about healthcare. If you ask any doctor out there, the doctor will tell you that healthcare is a right. Well, if healthcare is a right, then where's the free market for this when everybody's supposed to get it? It doesn't make sense economically, right? So again, we need to start having these types of conversations and figuring them out. But again, I'm more about making sure that Americans aren't dependent on the government, that the government exists to create opportunities and environments for all Americans to thrive and succeed. The best example that you used, James, was the housing market. Protecting the housing market is not obstructing free markets. That's creating an environment where Americans can thrive. I also agree that we need to get investment companies out of the home, at least the single-family home market, so that we can allow American families the opportunity to purchase these. And if we did, we would actually drive the market down quite a bit and create affordability in the marketplace as well.
That's exactly right. I mean, think about for your parents, your grandparents, when they were buying their first home, they didn't have to compete against several hedge funds and foreign nationals. We just learned today that half of new construction home purchases in Miami-Dade County, half are being bought up by foreign nationals.
Yep.
The system is set up for us to fail.
Yep.
Again, it's really hard to be an American in America. It's really easy to be an H-1B here. It's really easy to be a foreigner here. It's really easy to be a private equity hedge fund Blackstone type investment vehicle here. It's just really hard to be an American. And so what earlier generations, and they still did work hard. The odds were still not against them, but there was still hard work to have been done. But they did not have to compete with a global talent pool of, honestly, slave labor that isn't all that bright, but comes in because they're so much cheaper. And then second, these investment purchases of single-family homes. We're seeing it both with foreign nationals, et cetera. And that's why, as I'm running for Florida governor, I'm the only one in that race who is saying, I'm banning Blackstone, I'm banning BlackRock, I'm banning Airbnb from turning our single-family neighborhoods into these hotel Las Vegas strips where one day you got an orgy happening in one Airbnb, the next day you got Hunter Biden and Andrew Gillum passed out in the other Airbnb. Look, our neighborhoods are for families to raise a family in. They're not for Blackstone, they're not for foreign nationals, and they're not for Airbnbs.
Are congressional delegations staying at an Airbnb in Las Vegas? Is that why the entertainment expenses were so high?
Could have been.
Could have been.
The foundation for the American dream is owning a home.
Correct.
Period.
And
Period.
if that's being blocked by an investment firm, which by the way, the largest investor in Blackstone is the Chinese government. And so there's nothing about a free market about that.
That's right.
To say that bringing in billions of dollars from China at a different tax rate. Oh, so what? James? You're for progressive taxation. You're like AOC. Okay, stop with the boomer GOP slop for a second, right? And let's address that specific argument for a second. If you make $1 million and you run a laundromat in Alachua County, and you make $1 million as a hedge fund manager, do you know that as the laundromat owner, you will pay double the tax rate for the same $1 million of income? Ladies and gentlemen, that is called picking winners and looters. That is called socialism.
So your initial question. I think that everything that we're going to be talking about here boils down to one thing that it can kind of be embodied by, and that's taxation without representation. Marcus kind of said, you get what you pay for in politics, and that's why we're not represented. That's why your question about crony capitalism makes so much sense, because we all feel it, Even if you don't want to admit it, you want to pretend we live in the 60s still, come on, be honest. Our politicians are obedient. They're obedient to the donors, but not to the voters. So that's why our priorities and our interests never actually matter to them. They know enough through polling data to know what to say on TV, right? But I think that the fact that we have lobbyists that go and they write these laws, they write these regulations, and then slip a couple grand to your congressman, and then they pass it on some 10,000 page bill. They put it on like 9,000 pages out of 10, or page 9,000 out of 10,000. Okay, it's the entire system is just rigged against us. And I don't want to be whiny. I don't want to act like I'm some victim or something. But it's up to us to change it, because they're not going to, because again, the incentive structure is in their favor for them to keep doing what they're doing. They want business as usual.
I drove here all the way from Jackson, and we have a big problem over there. Every day someone is getting injured. What is your plan to reduce violent crime in this state?
Mind if I take that one?
Yes.
This is my number one campaign issue is mental health. In Congress, my plan is, and I've already actually written up some legislation on it, at least it's the beginning drafts of it, is declare a national mental health emergency, to declare it as an epidemic. Every single person in this room, when I say mental health, you're all thinking about somebody. Anybody not? We all got somebody in mind, right? That's an epidemic. That is an epidemic. And every time that there's a shooting that takes place, you have to realize that the person who pulled that trigger was suffering from a mental health episode at the time. No matter what the circumstances they were. Anytime you're willing to pull a trigger and take somebody's life, there's something going on upstairs that got misdirected and misguided, especially when we start talking about these mass shootings. And then every time these mass shootings happen, you'll have the Democrats on the left are talking about we need to end the gun violence epidemic. And then you got the Republicans on the right saying, no, you got to protect the Second Amendment. None of this has anything to do with it. And both sides are getting the same way both sides are getting money from AIPAC, both sides are getting money from Big Pharma as well. Big Pharma, who's feeding the mentally unwell these drugs, who aren't doing anything but making the problem actually worse. So my goal is to actually declare that outright up front, say we have a mental health problem as a nation. Now, once we do that, that would create in theory, would create a subcommittee in Congress to start driving what is the exact causes of our mental health epidemic and what are the precise solutions for them. And we need to start hitting them, because it's not just one thing. It's not just medication. It's not just the drugs that we're taking or the way that people are being guided into these mental health avenues. It's social media. It's the job market, it's the housing market, it's economics. There's a lot of different factors that drive each of us to anybody who has mental health problems. There's a lot of different factors that come up. It's the food we eat. That's one of the things I love about RFK and the things that he's pointing out, So until we get serious about identifying and publicly declaring that this indeed is a problem, it's never going to get fixed. It's never going to be a solution. Homelessness is another one that I talk about. PTSD. How many veterans that I know of who've committed suicide because of PTSD, because they come home and they feel so worthless about everything that we went through over there. If it was worth it, it might be easier to hang your hat on. But when you find out, you come back, you spent so much of your life and effort and energy, and say it's not worth it, that's a tough pill to swallow for anybody. You know, that's one of the main drivers is what's driven me to run for office now. This is, like I said, this is the service my country needed from me all along. And if I would have been doing this, if we would have been doing this as a nation decades ago, we would have never found ourselves in those situations in the first place. So I really focus on mental health when it comes. I know violence is part of that, but I do believe the root cause of this is mental health, and we need to get serious about how to address that.
I came from Jacksonville too. I just happened to be there earlier today. But what I'll tell you, you know downtown Jacksonville, you know how many hundreds of homeless people are there. The truth is that we already have laws on the books against public intoxication, about shooting up heroin and fentanyl in public, about vagrancy and all of that. We've got to enforce the laws that are on the books first and foremost. And what I would do in cities like Jacksonville, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Orlando, where you have a homeless situation, is very quickly give them an option. Do you want to go to prison for several years for all of the crap that you have on you right now? Or do you want to get mental health treatment? It's going to be unpopular to say, we have to reopen the asylums. We have to reopen the asylums. When they started closing, and so when you've got upwards of half of people who commit violent crime having that mental health issue, I'm sorry, we're not doing the therapy thing. We're doing the, you're going to prison for 10 years thing, or you're going to go to a mental health institution, which is a very euphemistic way of saying you're going to Arkham Asylum, okay? That's a way to say it. Let me also tell you what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to let tragedies like Parkland strip us of our God-given right to self-defense. What I am going to do, I'm going to push in my first 100 days, if you elect me for this job, I'm going to push for an immediate repeal of all red flag laws. I'm going to push for an immediate repeal of the bump stock ban. And I'm going to allow anyone, if you are an adult, if you are 18 years of age, if you can go in the Army and the Marines and serve this country, you should be able to own a firearm in this state. We'll do that in the first 100 days.
I think you all have completely covered it, so I don't think you left any comments for down here. So.
I'll just say two things real quick to that end. People need Jesus and people need their dad around, man. That's it.
So I'd like to follow up with that question. I was actually a victim of violent crime. I actually got stabbed in this town by a repeat violent offender who was a drug dealer. And I would like to know what policies you're going to enact to keep violent repeat offenders, as we see across the country. You know, some of them have like 40 arrests. What are you going to do to keep them in jail and off our streets?
It's a great point. It's a great point. I'm very sorry that happened to you, and I'm especially sorry that the criminal justice system allowed that to happen to you by letting these repeat offenders. We saw it happen in Charlotte with Arena. It's just tragic to see a guy who has been arrested more times than you can count continue to do this. Then we got to do two things. We have to end early release, early probation, all of that. Again, what it does is it sympathizes with the criminal. Oh, he's been good. He's been good. He's been good. He's read his books in prison. He hasn't stabbed anyone or shanked anyone in the shower. Some other things in the shower, but hasn't done that. And therefore, that's grounds to release them early. No, serve your full sentence. Number two, we're bringing back the 3 strikes. That's it. Bring back 3 strikes. I don't care what that 3rd strike is. It doesn't matter what it is. If you commit a felony the 3rd time, you are going away for life without the possibility of parole.
If I can add to that, one of the biggest points for me would be end cashless bail. Across the nation, there is no jurisdiction in this entire United States that should have cashless bail. Because I guarantee you, if any competent judge has looked at the cases and he has 40 cases and now he's stabbed you, is he in prison now, or do you know?
He is. He doesn't have 40 cases, but that's not another case I was referring to.
Okay, but to that point, cashless bail across this entire country is a huge problem.
Huge, yeah. Yeah, do you? Back there.
So you're a young guy coming from a position outside of politics, which I do like. However, how can you ensure Floridians that you have the confidence to do this job and make good on your promises, given that there is not much track record to look back on?
Well, you got me there. I don't have the track record of going to Congress and making $5 million on insider stock trading. I don't have the track record of taking money from AIPAC and then putting America last and putting foreign countries first. I don't have the track record of going to Congress and approving bills that spend money that we don't have on things we don't need for people in our country who should not even be here. I have a track record in business. I have a track record now as an investor who has channeled $40 million of capital into companies that refuse to hire on DEI but hire on something called merit instead. I have a track record of building a free debate league here throughout Florida, from the Panhandle all the way down to South Florida, that's worked with 5,000 students to train them to be like the next generation of Charlie Kirk's, well-spoken, courageous, and free-thinking. I have a track record of standing up against corrupt federal officials. I was the only investment firm to file an amicus brief with the U.S. Supreme Court this past summer defending President Trump's right to remove serial fraudster Lisa Cook. And then lastly, I have a track record as a fourth-generation Floridian who's been to all 67, or some would say 67, counties.
Wow.
Counties. But I'll tell you guys, look, it's about merit. That's what it's all about. It's about merit. I could be 50, I could be 20, I happen to be 30. That just so happens to be the legal age to be governor, right? If you elect me, I'll get inaugurated at 32. I'm never going to ask you to judge me by the school that I went to, by the awards that I got, by the people that I know, by the praise that I've gotten in the fake news media. I'm asking you to judge me on the vision that I have for the country. And I'll tell you, the same is going to go for these guys too. Our opponents are establishment individuals who have a track record of losing, who have principles of losing, who have an unimpeachable history of putting our country last and selling off our sovereignty to the lowest bidder, often for $7,000 a tweet. But what I will say is, judge us by what we're going to do in the future. In the investment business, we're often told that past performance is not indicative of future results. What is most indicative of what we are going to do in the future is what we're telling you we're going to do. Look at our past, look at our track records in business, in the communities that we have served. But at the end of the day, the highest priority for what you should all be looking at for these elections is, what does he say he's going to do? I mean, look, Byron doesn't just take money from AIPAC. He says he's going to take money from AIPAC. Byron isn't just a shill for the H-1B lobby. He says he's a shill for the H-1B lobby. Byron Donalds isn't just a mass amnesty candidate. He proudly says that. So the question isn't, well, this guy says he's going to take on H-1B, and this guy says he's going to do it too, and who's going to do it better? This guy over here, not you, H1 over there, he doesn't even think it's a problem. When he was asked right down the hall here by one of your fellow students, would you support James Fishback's plan to impose a fine on companies firing qualified workers here in Florida and replacing them with slave labor via the H-1Bs in India, he said no. Those are your two choices. I'm in this race to give you an option, an alternative, and to put America first.
Yeah, so I just want to add to that real quick. You know, to me, when you ask the question, I'm thinking, well, what's his benchmark? You know, if you're expecting the same thing that career politicians spit out, you know, it's essentially the same everywhere we go. A politician makes promises, a politician gets elected, a politician breaks the promise. To me, I think the only difference is, are we going to break our promises? And quite frankly, what's our incentive to do so? I'm not getting money from special interests. I'm not getting money from corporations. You know, our purpose for being up here is genuinely authentic, and I think throughout our campaigns, that's something that's just going to be naturally known. But I just wanted to add that it's career politicians who've created our problems. It's not going to be those same politicians to solve them. So for that, it's going to take new faces. It's going to take new thoughts, people who have the motivation to come up and stand up and be that change. And so again, that's why I encourage other people to get more involved in politics. That's really how I got involved in the first place, was educating and motivating people on what it takes to run for office so we could have more candidates. So, hopefully over the course of our campaigns, that's the type of sentiment that we can just prove through our own actions. But don't get it twisted. What you're asking for is this basically, how can we prove to you today that we're not going to break our promises tomorrow? And again, the only thing that we can say is we're not the same career politicians that have come historically.
Yeah, show me the incentive and I'll show you the outcome.
Yeah.
What is the incentive for us?
Yeah.
By the way, you guys are right to be skeptical. A guy named Vivek Ramaswamy literally came out of nowhere. He fell from the sky, promised us the world, and then dropped off the map. Not our map, he's in India, but the thing is, you guys have every right to be skeptical the way we've all been sold out. They tell us one thing, they do something next. So you have a right to be skeptical. But look at us, look at our vision, and look at the incentive structure in place. If we were telling you one thing, but taking money from another group, we would have an incentive to break our promise. But if I am telling you right here, right now, that as your next governor of Florida, I will never allow them to criminalize criticism of Israel, and I haven't taken money from AIPAC, you can bet the farm that I'm going to keep that promise.
So, real quick, let me quote a much more famous American than all of us that splits his time between Washington, D.C. and Mar-a-Lago. What in the hell do you have to lose? Our country, we're coming up on our 250th anniversary, as Mike said. Look at where we are. We're $38 trillion in debt. What do you think we're going to do? Go blow up the world? Well, they said Trump was going to go blow up the world, and guess what? He didn't. What do any of us have to lose? It would be so much easier for any of the four of us to be home with our family, our dogs. I would love to be sitting on the couch right now, eating dinner with my dog right here and just scratching her head. I love her. We are sitting here because we believe that our best days are still ahead of us. That's why all four of us are sitting here. And the first conversation that I ever had with James, I said, basically, James, I don't know who you are, but let's get together. I said, we are all we're not on Team Byron, but we're all rooting for another guy. And I said, but let's sit down. The one thing that I believe in more than anything else is that we all deserve an equal opportunity in this country. I don't care if you're purple, if you're yellow, and you have green stripes. It doesn't matter. We have been called every name under the sun for criticizing one specific country. It doesn't matter to us. We are here because we want every single person in this room to have a better life. That's it, full stop.
No, we'll go here, sure. All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Fishback, for being here, and thank you really for all the speakers for taking up your precious time to really address the student body of this university. My question is...
Well, that was eloquent.
I'm sure. Well, my question is to you, Mr. Fishback. Ever since you announced your candidacy for Florida governor, your campaign really has garnered a decent amount of national attention from what I can see. Sometimes, the attention is a little bit negative, and especially we're coming from, some people within Trump's inner circle, especially like people like Alex Russowitz, and he's a Trump advisor in Trump's inner circle, and he's come out and said, your campaign is like you're a total scam artist. And we've also seen, President Trump endorse by Donald instead of you or any other candidate, any alternative Republican candidate. So, my question to you is really two questions, really. One is, do you believe that Trump has really lived up to the promises he made to the American people, including Floridians, back in 2024? And secondly, is how your campaign is coping with the potential hostility towards your campaign. So that is my question. Thank you.
Great questions. Great questions. Let me first start by saying that No president is going to ever keep their promises. We're never going to hold them to that perfection standard. What I think the most important promise that President Trump made and has kept is he completely and totally shut the border. He stopped the invasion cold. And for that, I don't know why he wants a Nobel Peace Prize. We'll give him the American Closed Border Prize. That's way more helpful. You know, we learn in economics, there's stock and there's flow, right? The stock of existing immigrants, which obviously, let's be honest, Kristi Noem can take the makeup off and start deporting more people. But the flow of new immigrants, the stopping of the bleeding, that has stopped completely. There hasn't been a single illegal to cross the border in over 6 months. For that, he deserves commendation. Sure. But I'll say this. He and I are going to have our disagreements. I actually aired those disagreements with him privately. I've been fortunate enough to have a little bit of a personal relationship with him. I told him, like I said, before I ran, I let him know. I've never asked the president for his endorsement in this race. Byron got the endorsement, believe it or not, before he even became a declared candidate, all the way back in February. I entered this race because I had dinner with Byron and his wife for 3 hours in August, and I left that dinner convinced they were utterly unqualified to lead a state that my family has known for 4 generations. And so we are never going to take orders from the establishment to say, well, you must pick this candidate. We're done with the DEI candidates. I'm sorry, we're just done with them. We're done with the Carrie Lakes. We're done with the Winsome Sears. We're done with the Vivek Ramaswamis. We're done with the Byron Donalds. If you want to win and earn our votes, come here and earn our votes. That is the simple task that I have. Compare my vision to Byron's. And by the way, it's, I think, less important about who is endorsed by the president and who endorses the president's vision, who endorses the policies that are most consistent with America First. If you want someone who's going to put H-1Bs over UF grads, Byron Donalds is your guy. If you want someone who's going to apologize for the efficacy of mass deportations and push amnesty, Byron Donalds is your guy. If you want someone who's going to make millions of dollars trading stocks in Congress, Byron Donalds is your guy. As to our campaign, how are we going to do it? We're going to do it by doing it. We're going to do it by doing it. If you would have told me that our campaign announcement video got 4 million views in just the first week, I would not have believed you. And so there's something real about this campaign. It's about all of us. It's about all of us who want to see our country and our birthright protected. Thank you.
Thank you guys for speaking to me today. My name is Vinay. The question is for Mr. Fishback. You started a fund less than a year ago. Why run for governor now?
Well, that was short. That's good. So I started a fund less than a year ago. Why run for governor now? It's a great question. So last December, I started Azuria. We actually launched it at Mar-a-Lago. The president was there. He came by and said hi. The reason why I am running for governor is because I don't see anyone else to step up and share this vision, this Florida First vision that puts our workers, our families, our seniors, our state, and our sovereignty first. That's why I'm in this race. To great pain financially, I've put all of that on the shelf because I think this is just too important. It's that old JFK quote, if not us, then who? If not now, then when? If there were someone in this race who had committed to not take money from AIPAC, who had committed to not take money from big corporations, who had committed to put American workers over foreign H-1Bs, who had committed to work with the federal government to double, triple the pace of mass deportations, who had committed to ban Blackstone from buying up our homes, I wouldn't enter this race. I don't need all of the scrutiny and all of the attacks on me and my family. I'm in this race because I think I have a vision for the state and a vision that no one else shares.
I know this guy had a sample.
Mr. Fishback, my name is Andrew. I have a question. You mentioned before that you want to stop the influx of not just foreign people coming into the state, but other Americans from other states kind of moving in and overdeveloping. I want to know if you have any concrete plans to enact this, or what tools you're going to use to enact this.
Well, the number one tool, speaking of concrete, is to stop the pouring of concrete, stop the overdevelopment. Now, I'm glad that you asked the question because we can all agree on the what. We can all agree on the why we want to stop overdevelopment, why we want our state to not end up looking like communist China, which I got to visit in high school for a summer, and just every last little thing is paved over, 50 stories. It's ridiculous. We are not that kind of place. So let's talk about the how. How do we do it? First thing, Say's Law, Econ 101. If you build it, they will come. Stop building. Stop the overdevelopment. Stop endlessly building and then inviting the entire country to be here. I have real disagreements with Rick Scott. Rick Scott ran an advertisement on a banner plane over New York City before the mayoral race that said, hate socialism, ? Us too, move to Florida. I'm going to use my messaging to stop inviting the whole world and the whole country to move here because Florida is full. We are not the country's refugee camp. That little communist in New York is not our problem. We can send our condolences to our friends, but Americans do not run from a fight. They don't run from a battle. If you're a New Yorker and you're upset about Zoran, guess what? Stay there, work to elect good conservatives, fight against the socialist regime, but don't come here and run away from your problems. How do we actually do that? Well, we need to be honest. We cannot, there's a free right to mobility that's implied in the First Amendment. We cannot build a wall or tariff people, but we can be very honest about who the benefits are for Floridians. That property tax abolishment is for Florida residents' primary homesteaded property. Number two, we can create real incentives that don't make it harder for foreigners or in migration, but make it easier for Floridians to actually compete and exist in their own state. And then lastly, we can tackle the issue of overdevelopment by not overdeveloping, but by being smart, deliberate, and slow with the development. We're sick of the 15th Dollar Tree, the 12th self-service car wash, and the 7th mini storage facility. This line go up GDP. And so I have a radical view. $10 million of investment means nothing unless you're going to tell us what it's for. What's the $10 million of investment for? Is it to build another AI data center? Is it to build another self-storage unit? No, you know what we should build? We should be building bookstores, restaurants, bowling alleys, ice skating rinks, roller skating rinks, so we can let young people find other young people and actually enjoy America for once, because we've been under attack for far too long. And so I want to welcome the development that actually elevates our state. As my opponent Byron Donald says, he wants to turn Florida into financial capital. I don't believe that. I believe that Florida is our home and not their playground. Yeah.
Well, this is, oh, sorry. You go? You go ahead.
Calling me? Hi, my name is Bregis. Thank you all for being here. My question is for Mr. Fishback. So you have a strong stance against foreign lobbyists and AIPAC, which is highly respected given the political landscape of now. So it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when you're going to be facing some pressure. How do you expect to deal with that pressure? And how can we trust you to stand on that promise?
You mean to stand on business? Okay.
Correct. So can I start on this?
Please.
Okay, so on a federal level, this is U.S. Code 601. There are, and I usually come prepared, so that's why I have this whole stack of notes. There are two specific areas why AIPAC should be registered as a foreign lobby, and I'll read them to you. The furtherance or influencing of political or public interest, policies, or relations of a government of a foreign country. Okay? It doesn't say that the money has to come from a foreign country. It says pursuing the interest of a foreign country. The second section is engages within the United States in political activities for or in the interest of such foreign principle. So on a federal level, the one thing that we need to do, and I don't want to tell you the president that tried to do this, on a federal level, the thing that we need to do is we need to make AIPAC register under FARA. They are specifically condoning foreign influence. That's it. Now over to you. How are you going to fight it?
Well, I'm going to fight it because I'm already fighting it. Before I even got in this race, NBC News ran a story. Go read it. It's by Matt Dixon. It cites a senior advisor to Miriam Adelson, who's now raising a war chest. And that was before I was even a declared candidate. Here's my commitment to you. I will never meet with them. I will never talk with them. I will never talk with someone who works with them. I will never talk with someone who talks with someone who works for them. I'm never going to get the call because I'm never going to pick up the phone. I am here to represent America first. And it's not out of hatred of anyone. It is out of an unapologetic, unwavering love for each and every one of you. I am never going to sell you out. I'm always going to put our country first because honestly, If you take money and sell us out, you are a traitor to this country. And we handled traitors back in the 1800s a lot better than we did today.
The guy in the black shirt, yes.
Okay.
No,
Whoever was
He was up first.
Whoever was up first.
From here.
Good evening to all of you. I'd like to direct one question for any four of you, but mainly for you, Mr. Fishback. I find your take on the property tax to be something that really resonates with me. My dad even said that any candidate who would get rid of that or at least lower it, we would vote for them for forever because that's something that really matters to me. And I feel like for a lot of young people in this room, a home is part of the American dream. It's also a matter of faith. It's sacred in its own way. The fact that living having a home, that's where you create your family. That's where you raise your family. That's where all those memories are made. So it's really precious to us from an American standpoint and also from a perspective of faith. So I find that this vision of yours for the property tax and also for real estate at large is really important to all of us. My question is, what is the specific plan for us to do it and also respond to the pushback that we're going to get from it? Because a lot of the arguments we're hearing is, where else are we going to get the money? So that's my question to you.
It's a great question. I'll take it because these guys are running for federal office and the property tax, of course, is a state issue. So let's be very clear about property taxes for a second. In America, you don't rent your home from the government. If you wanted to rent your home, you can go rent a home. You want to go pay rent, you can go pay rent. But if you actually want to own something, have an asset that's not Melania-cool, and you actually want to own something that you can pass down to the next generation that's not going to lose 98% of its value in, 4 months, then guess what? Buy a home. Not just because home is an asset for the family, but because, to your point, if you don't have a home, can you really get married? Now, I hope you guys can get a ride or die girl, or the girls can get a ride or die guy, and you guys can live out of a car or a motel, but we have to be honest, that is a precondition for marriage. Marriage is a precondition, I believe, for having children. Children being fruitful and multiplying, as my Lord and Savior commands me to do, is a precondition for living out the full arc of the American dream. And so, here's what we need to do. We need to abolish property taxes, not on the Costco, they're going to still pay property tax, not on the Canadian, he's still going to pay property tax, not on the strip mall, certainly not on the strip club, that's where Byron hangs out, but not on any of that. We're going to only abolish it if you own your home. Now, where do we get the money to pay for this? Where do we get the money to pay for this? Well, you'd be maybe surprised to know that county governments are spending 40 to 50% more today than they were just 5 years ago, just before the scamdemic, just before they used a man-made lab-created virus to push radical change, both Republicans and Democrats, to line their pockets. And so all you have to do to county governments is say, get spending back to where it was in 2020, fire all the chief diversity officers, stop all the pronoun trainings, stop this Section 8 style housing development. Section 8 style housing is not the American dream, it's an American insult. And guess what? You can both bring down the spending and make up totally for that. But the concern is genuine because we think about first responders. We think about, to the question earlier, about the risk of losing police funding. That's never going to be the issue. We're only going to redirect funding to cover the property tax, and there's going to be a gap. I mean, obviously, if you abolish some form of taxation, there's going to be a revenue gap. You make up for that revenue by looking very honestly at the waste, the excess, and the abuse, not of the last 20, 30 years. I'm not saying go back to 1990. I'm saying go back to where we were 4 or 5 years ago, have a balanced county budget, and then stop allowing county governments to use increased assessment values and increased millage rates to dial up the pressure of the parasites. The problem with the property tax is it's a wealth tax. Can you imagine if you bought a stock and it went up by 20%, you didn't sell it, and the IRS came to you and said, you owe us money? That's exactly what the property tax is. It's unjust, it's immoral. I will end it in my first year in office.
Thank you, gentlemen, for being here.
Tell us where you came from.
I drove out here from Pensacola today.
How far?
About 5 hours, so not too bad. Well, thank you, gentlemen, all for being here. I'm so happy to get to listen to all you guys speak. we've been so blessed to have the greatest governor of my lifetime, Governor Ron DeSantis, for the last 8 years. And my question for you, Mr. Fishback, is what, if anything, would you do differently than Ron DeSantis?
I believe that Governor DeSantis has been an incredible governor, one of the greatest in Florida history, one of the greatest in American history. I don't want to second guess a lot of his judgment about certain things because I wasn't in that position. I wouldn't want someone to say to me, well, why did you put this trade on incorrectly when you weren't in that particular position as I was a hedge fund investor. Here's one thing that I disagree with the governor on, and I think his heart was in the right place when you looked at honestly, the radical Islamists at Columbia, the radical Islamists at Harvard, who were storming into classrooms where we saw a little bit of this here. It got tamed out pretty quickly, but storming into classrooms and yelling at white kids and saying, apologize for the genocide, yelling at a white Christian kid saying, apologize for what's going on in Israel. That's ridiculous. So I understand where that instinct, where that genuine frustration came from, but I disagreed with the criminalization of anti-Semitism. Look, hatred of all forms should be unequivocally denounced. But in the same way they tried to come to us in the summer of 2020 and demand that we say Black Lives Matter, I'm not going to sit here and disavow anyone, and I'm not going to sit here and play this game and be selectively outraged by any form of religious frustration. There's anti-Christian hate, there's anti-Muslim hate, there is anti-Jewish hate. Honestly, it's in that order. It is in that order of severity and prevalence in this country, chief being anti-Christian. So my commitment and my disagreement with the governor, again, it's a small disagreement in the much broader context of so much good, including keeping Anthony Fauci away from our schools and the drag queens out of our communities, is the criminalization of anti-Semitism. So I would amend that. I would simply say that any criticism of Israel, oh, you're going to hold them to a double standard. Well, they claim to be the only democracy in the Middle East, so yeah, we're going to hold them to a pretty high standard. That I would end that, and I would give the full protection to the First Amendment. If you want to criticize Russia, be my guest. You want to criticize Zelensky and his money laundering scheme, be my guest. You want to criticize Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, and 80,000 dead civilians in Gaza, be my guest. Our founding fathers died for your right to do that.
So let me just add one point there. There is a massive difference between anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism. I personally support a two-state solution, Israel-Palestine, okay? Two-state solution, which makes sense to 98% of the people in the world. What we're being sold is that Israel, as the country, the government, has the right to expand into the West Bank. I do not agree with that. I personally support a two-state solution. Israel, stay, play in your own sandbox. Palestine, stay, play in your own sandbox. If they need a 1,000-foot wall in between them, so be it. But there is a huge misinterpretation between anti-Semitism. The Semites are the entire region. To say you're anti-Semitic means that you don't like people in Palestine, means you don't like people in, the Nile region of Egypt, means that you don't like people in Israel. I don't support the expansion of the Israeli state beyond where it is.
And I'll just close the loop on that real quickly, which is, if the men and women in uniform made the ultimate sacrifice for our right to do, among things, criticize America, you absolutely have a right to criticize Israel. It's just the truth. It should never, ever, you should never be punished for doing that.
There's also a difference between criticizing a government and criticizing an ethnicity. And, it's so easy for somebody who's pro-Israel to just label you an anti-Semitic or a Jew hater just because you're calling out the Israeli government. So I think it's careful. We should all be careful about parsing those two as well and focusing on the fact that the government's doing things that doesn't have anything to do with the people, which is basically the same thing we have going on right here in America.
Let's let Mike put in a word there.
So I agree completely. I think that any limitation on speech is unconstitutional. There's no such thing as hate speech. You can have whatever terrible opinion on anything you want as long as it's not directly hurting somebody. The idea that you're going to limit and regulate people's opinions and beliefs,
You can think whatever the hell you want, man. This is America. It's what my ancestors fought for. It's what we're fighting for.
That's right.
And let me close the loop again, if I may. Remember when YouTube played that little game a couple months ago? They said, we're going to let certain creators back on, and then they applied, and then they got taken off in 24 hours. Well, I'm a shareholder, sadly, in Google and Alphabet, which owns YouTube. And I, within just hours of that happening, I wrote a letter, published that online, to the CEO of Alphabet, Sundar Pichai, demanding they restore the accounts of Alex Jones and Nick Fuentes immediately. You protect the First Amendment.
Thank you. My name is Robert Cezanne. I'm a business student here at UF, and I will be voting in the Republican primary.
Thank you.
So my question is for you, James. In your opening statement, you said on your first day of office, you would change the cost of tuition for international students to be $1 million. My mother was born in Brazil and was blessed with the opportunity to attend college here in Florida. She fell in love with the American culture, the American way, and American man. And I understand that you want to keep the American colleges for Americans. But what do you tell foreigners that are searching to live the American dream? And furthermore, what is your plan for the international students that are currently pursuing degrees here right now?
Pack your bags.
Let's go.
Look, I say it respectfully. The truth is, we are not a country of immigrants. We have immigrants in our history. They are a part of the history, but we are not a country of immigrants. Sounds like your mom and dad are awesome. Sounds like you're awesome. You're an American. There's no question about that. But what might have made sense 30, 20, maybe even 15 years ago doesn't make sense today. The first jelly donut is a delicious treat. The second jelly donut is incrementally less satisfying. The 10th jelly donut is breakfast for Randy Fine. And so if we're gonna play this game of immigrants are good, is one immigrant good? I don't know, maybe if it's Elon Musk. But if it's 100 immigrants, is it 1 million? Are you Matthew Iglesias and you want to have 1 billion people here? We have to draw the line somewhere. I draw the line right here at the integer known as 0, complete immigration moratorium. I hope these folks will support that at the federal level, but within my state powers, if you give me this awesome responsibility to serve you as Florida governor, I will on my first day, I don't need the legislature to do it, I will direct the Board of Governors to direct every public university, including this one, to raise the tuition for both future and existing foreign students to $1 million a year. We were sold the lie, if you go watch The Simpsons or Family Guy, the idea of the foreign student is someone who comes here, they're from Italy, they teach you how to cook pasta and pizza, you take them to your Catholic church, they have fun, you watch football, there's actually a genuine cultural exchange. With all due respect, I was a college student. You guys are. Look around. The foreign students, there is no exchange of anything. Right? And so this whole concept is based on a lie. When your mom came here, it sounds like she assimilated.
Yeah, she did.
Right? That's not the case that's happening now. And so what might have made sense before, just because it made sense before, doesn't mean it has to make sense going forward. Just because 1 or 2 is good doesn't mean 10 or 10 million, or in Matthew Iglesias' point, is 1 billion. And so I say it genuinely to the foreign students, you may have some in the room here, go make your country great. We got to take care of ours. We got to protect the people who actually are from here, who have given everything to this country. It is their country. It is their birthright. I'm never going to apologize for that.
Thank you. So I'm a unicorn. I'm a faculty member here in the liberal arts and the humanities, and I'm a conservative.
Whoa!
And I've been canceled for it because I spoke out against the school district for indoctrinating our students into communism, Marxism, transgender ideology, and whatnot. So I paid the price. If my faculty members are watching me on TV, I can still have a coffee with you, although you probably won't have it with me. So anyway, I'm trying to figure out this new, like you even started your talk with, if you're this type of Republican, I'm sorry, I'm done with you. I've been fighting for Republican values, for the Constitution, for individual liberty, for capitalism, free markets. Recently, the U of College Republicans wrote an article that the new right, and described the new right as prioritizing nationalism and Christian heritage over the Constitution or constitutional norms. I would like to know, as an American First advocate, how do you view that characterization? Do you align with rejecting constitutional norms? Do you support their framing of the GOP divide as, quote, "This isn't a civil war, it's a hostile takeover. The establishment can scream anti-Semitism, the youth doesn't care." I'm trying to figure out where I line in this party, and I've sacrificed and I've served, and I'll continue to do it, but I want to know if I belong in this group, because that does not align with my values. So I'd like to know your opinion.
Well, thank you for your question. I haven't read that article, but let me speak to the broader debate that's happening right now in the Republican Party. The broader debate that's happening in the Republican Party right now is you guys will go online, you guys will write your congressman, you guys will speak out publicly about the inability to buy a home, the inability to buy a job, and all Congress will do is pass a resolution to condemn anti-Semitism or socialism. All they will do is do nothing. And so there's been this long-standing belief that we have to adhere to certain norms. We have to adhere to certain fixtures. And well, we can't do that because that would be against the free market. As I said earlier, the free market is not the goal. It is oftentimes the way to get to the goal, but it is not the goal itself. And so what I stand for unapologetically is to put Americans first. To put Americans first means you can only have one top priority. Do you want to put Americans first, or do you want to put the free market first? If we said we were, well, but that's not actually the debate that's happening right now in the party.
My question specifically, their argument was that the constitutional norms are of the old party, and the new party is Christian nationalism.
So I actually think the constitutional norm of trying to criminalize criticism of Israel, of any foreign country, I think that is in fact a hostile takeover of the Republican Party. We should absolutely reject that. I believe that Republicans like Rick Scott using the tragedy of Parkland, of Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, to strip young Floridians of their Second Amendment right, I believe that to be a hostile takeover. And so I think as Republicans, we can come together. I think most Republicans want to do the right thing. Most Republican voters are on the same page. They don't want our tax dollars being sent abroad, not to the transgender opera in Colombia, not to military equipment in Ukraine, not to military equipment in Israel, and not to circumcisions in Mozambique. I'm glad we cut them quite literally. But the truth is, we have to be honest about what our party has truly stood for. We have not stood for elevating this sacred concept of the free market, the sacred concept of whatever perverted form of corporatism we have. We don't have a capitalist system, guys. We just don't have and a free market, a genuine free market, would not allow slave labor from a third world country to come in and take a job from you. That's not a free market. In the same way that we abolished slavery in the 19th century, we should abolish the modern day slavery that affects both sides. I think it actually exploits the workers unfairly, but it also exploits our people from robbing them of those opportunities. And so I welcome you in this room. I believe that you are, and I've seen your work online, that you stood up against the school board, you fought against the indoctrination of our kids. But I think that the indoctrination and the gaslighting happening by people like Randy Fine, people in the Republican Party, that's the real threat to the conservative movement going forward.
Are you pro-Constitution?
Absolutely.
And will you defend the
I
Constitution?
will always defend the Constitution.
And will you reject the language that the Constitution is passé?
So I will reject the idea that criminalizing speech.
That's not my question.
Well, but so you're asking me about constitutional threats.
Constitution.
I think the biggest threat to the First Amendment right now is this idea of waving around anti-Semitism to criminalize what's clearly protected speech in the United States of America. Snyder v. Phelps was a Supreme Court case that found that, pardon my language, people who protested military funerals and said God hates fags, that was still, as abhorrent and disgraceful as that language was, it was still protected by the First Amendment. That a literal Nazi rally in Skokie, Illinois was protected by the First Amendment. So yes, your right to criticize the US government, the Russian government, and the Israeli government is protected. I see the Republican establishment today as the ultimate threat to the actual constitutional norms of the First Amendment.
You know, when it comes to you not feeling like you necessarily have a home in the party, I can sympathize with that as well. I ran last year as an MPA. I got started, like I said, my whole purpose was educating and motivating people to run for office. The one thing about the Republican Party that I've noticed, at least here in Florida, is the way I like to say it is the back door is still open. Now, number one, I reject the idea that we're white nationalists or this type of language. I do believe that this is language that's used to sow divide and keep people who are maybe not as tuned in politically to stay into that safe Republican base. And that, I do believe that that's the problem. But, you know, the difference between, number one, there's corruption in the Republican Party, just like there's corruption in the Democratic Party. There's no secret about it. The difference between the two, I believe, not ideologically, is it's really the way they're structured. If you look across the Democratic line, doesn't matter, local, state, federal, they toe the line and they lock arms and they don't break. On the Republican side, that's not the case. On the Republican side, there's fights. There's people who are willing to stand up. That's why I say the back door's open. I believe right now is the time that we can make the Republican Party the party that we actually need it to be. That's not possible on the Democratic side, but that is possible on the Republican side. And I think that's really what this movement and the campaigns that we're running is really about. How can we make the party, not the way that it is, not with the hyperbole and not with the divisiveness, but how can we make the Republican Party what we need it to be?
Let me expand on that just slightly. I am 100% certain that we're sitting here right now because we believe more than anything else in the Constitution and protecting the Constitution of the United States. More than anything else. God, family, country, okay? In whatever order that you prefer. We're sitting here because it is sacred to us that everyone in this room understand the Fourth Amendment, that if you get pulled over, that you have the right to say, no, I don't want you to search my person. We want every single person in this room to know that under the Second Amendment, that you have the right to own a firearm if you're over the age of 18. Full stop. We want every single person in this room to know that under the First Amendment, I may not like your speech. I may completely disagree with your speech. And I've had not arguments, but I've had discussions with people that I can't stand one thing that they say, but including Randy Fine. But at the end of the day, I want us to get to a point in our country where we can sit down and have a respectful discussion and understand that at the end of the day, that our Constitution is sacred to every single one of us. And I welcome you here. I really do.
I want to believe you all, but that's not what's being written by the
I understand. What's being written about us?
No, by.
By us?
Yes, sir.
Oh, by
Well, when you say the group that put this on, I mean, you can have a disagreement with them, but we're here as candidates.
I understand. Well, that's why I wanted your clarity, because they invited you and they're putting out publications that they don't support the constitutional norms.
I have to see the exact quote. The only one I see not supporting the constitutional norms are people who actually try to criminalize protected speech in America today, but I'm happy to swap you
I'll
after.
send it to you.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's a discussion that I can guarantee you we're up for at any time. That we are sitting here because every single one of the four of us will protect the Constitution. We will fight and fight and fight until we have no power left in our body to keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the Constitution. You know, it's the best form of government that there is at this point. The only thing worse is anything else.
Exactly.
Just us being up here has afforded that. So I'm going to keep fighting for it. You know, I think that in the preamble of the Constitution, it establishes essentially the reason for government, right? The reason for the Constitution. And part of that is to form a more perfect union. I think that we should always be striving for that. As you know, the Constitution is a living document. And it takes a lot to change it. I think there are things that we can put in there. Like I think that the American people have a right to transparent legislation. That's actually a constitutional amendment that I've drafted. And you know, I think that there are things that can be changed. But I mean, we're Americans. You know, our society hinges on the Constitution.
I think we're trying to challenge political norms, but not constitutional norms.
Absolutely.
For sure, we're trying to challenge political norms.
Did you know that there's sorry guys, just hold on one second. On the internet, you can go on these websites and they tell you your elected officials' constitutional voting record. Most of them, it's disgraceful. Mine personally is sitting at 72%. So that means he votes constitutionally 72% of the time. I don't even know if he's even read the Constitution before. Believe it or not, you don't have to know it in order to run. But me personally, Aaron, us, we know the Constitution. We love the Constitution. That's why we're going to fight for it.
Mine's 74%. So to me, that means
it's 2% better than mine.
Yeah, I mean, so to me, that means, okay, 3 days out of the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I'm going to vote with the Constitution. Thursday, no, not going to vote with the Constitution. Friday, well, might just flip a coin and see. That is unacceptable in our form of government to me. Yeah. Period.
Sorry, she hasn't had it.
No, of course.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for being here today. I want to piggyback off of what she said too, that the youth are the most important part of America. And I applaud Ron DeSantis for protecting students from, the implementation of drag queens and just different propaganda like that. But I really noticed when I went back to school after COVID, after we were online for a year, people were embarrassed to stand up to say the Pledge of Allegiance. Mm-hmm. People were embarrassed to say that America is the greatest country in the world. How will we protect the youth by restoring American values in the educational system? Thank you.
It's very good.
Go for it. Go for it.
So I think that, I don't know about you guys, but when I went to public high school, we spent like maybe a week at a time learning about the Constitution, learning about government. I think there's a lot of people that just have no idea where we came from. They don't understand the Constitution. They don't understand the Bill of Rights. They don't know what is afforded to them and the freedoms that they have. I think that if we're going to have a Department of Education that's federally funded and federally ran, I think that we have to make civics as ubiquitous as math and science. I think that we have to have every public school graduate have the knowledge and the capability and the capacity to go run for local office so they can have involvement. That's where that pride is going to come from, is from knowledge and from learning and from education. That's what we have to do. That's what I think.
Eric? Name's Eric, drove here from Newsport Beach, a couple hours away. Given the size and inertia of the machine that we are up against, what are the biggest challenges that you expect to face getting into and trying to alter the course of this train of destruction?
It's probably, I think people say it's money. It's probably fake news. I mean, I've been in this race a week. There's already been 4 national hit pieces on me: ABC, NBC, The Bulwark. All right, there's one dropping, I think, right now. I just had to put out a comment, too. The truth is, it is actually validating for them to attack our campaign because it shows that we are a threat. Miriam Adelson wouldn't be raising a war chest against our campaign if it weren't a threat. This is a total shakeup to the establishment. If I'm successful, if these gentlemen are successful in their races, we're going to bring that America First energy, me to Tallahassee, them to Washington, D.C. I think what you have to do, honestly, if I'm just asking you guys to, I would never ask you to donate in this economy, but I'd ask you to defend. They are going to tell every single lie about us. Every single one. I just got a, again, literally I was parking, some of you saw me in the parking lot, I was on a phone talking to a journalist. We found this court document from 3 years ago in which you were ultimately fully exonerated, but there were some crazy allegations made, after which you were ultimately fully exonerated. What's your comment? My comment is that anyone today can sadly make false accusations. I'm grateful to the court for reviewing, having 2 lengthy hearings, conducting discovery, and fully clearing me of those. And so what I think we would ask each and every one of you to do is, be on offense for us. Be on offense, but ultimately be on defense. When they smear this man, when they attack this man in the coming months as he gets closer and closer to beating out Randy Fine, you're going to have to go from offense to defense. You're going to have to defend and say they're attacking him. Look at the sources. Look at the anonymous. He was cleared of this, that, and the other. They're going to dig into every single one of our pasts and find parking tickets. They're going to find anyone and everyone who can make false allegations against us. And remember, they're doing that because they know we can actually win. They know we can actually win. Remember, and if we win, they lose, they go bankrupt, and we get our country back. And one of the greatest scams in American history finally comes to a close.
Yeah, so I have two questions. The first one is something that I haven't heard you speak a lot about. It is on the issue of sorry, it's on the issue of abortion. And Ron DeSantis, I think, is one of the few conservatives left, at least in like big politics, who has really stand strong against that, including Trump. Like he was, and when during the abortion vote last year, DeSantis was out campaigning, and there were plenty of other states where it was happening where the governors weren't out campaigning. And like Trump almost like he almost like took all like pro-life messaging out of the party. So my first question is what are your personal views on abortion and pro-life, and like what level would you sign, because that's something that you can directly control?
Yeah.
And so that's my first question. And then the second question is just directly to you. I'm not gonna act like I'm knowledgeable on this, but I have seen posts regarding like your debt and credit card debt and scams like that I would be interested in you speaking about. I'm not gonna act like I know about it, but I want you to know.
Sure. I'll be happy to speak about that. The first thing is the issue of life. I believe that life begins at conception and it ends at natural death, and I will legislate that. I will sign that into law, and that if that means fully criminalizing all forms of abortion, including these mail-order abortion pills, I'll proudly do that. We also have to do is we have to get honest that we have laws on the books, but the heartbeat bill, there's not really a perfect way to enforce it. You've got abortion clinics in Fort Pierce where women who are clearly at 10, 12 weeks, they go in there, the doctor detects a heartbeat and then says, keep quiet, we'll do the procedure. And so it's one thing to have laws on the books, it's another thing entirely to enforce those laws on the book. I will always defend life, but I will also create a system that takes an unexpected mother who is struggling under that weight, under that anxiety, and allows her to have a crisis pregnancy center where she can turn to. If you're an unexpected mother and you go to Planned Parenthood and you say, I'd keep the baby if I just had diapers for a couple months, they would tell you, ma'am, I'm sorry, all we offer is murder. If you went into Planned Parenthood and said, I'd keep the baby if I was able to get some prenatal care, sorry, ma'am, all we offer is murder. I would keep the baby if I was able to have access to child care. I'm sorry, all we offer is murder. We have to offer women a real alternative. We have to, use the stick to beat the crap out of the abortion industry, to close every single abortion clinic, all 53 of them left in our state, but we also have to proudly and unwaveringly build up crisis pregnancy centers that proudly serve our women in our communities.
I want to add to that as well. You know, I'm also pro-life through and through. In fact, you know, you guys don't really know this, but as we speak right now, my son, Jacob, he's 7 years old. He's at Arnold Palmer Hospital in Orlando, and he's literally fighting for his life as we speak. He was born with a paralyzed digestive system. He's been on life support since birth. He just had an emergency colectomy that turned into sepsis and a wound infection. He's stuck with a wound vac right now, 7 years old. It's rough. Now, the reason I say all that doom and gloom, I wouldn't trade it for the world. When my wife was 4 months pregnant and they did the ultrasound and they could see that he was going to have these problems, the doctor sat us down in his office, not the doctor's exam room, but his, you know, where the desk is at and all his books, and he told us that it would be in everybody's best interest if she just had an abortion. If we just said, let's kill this baby so that our lives would be more convenient. Now, I can tell you that the past 7 years has not been easy. It's not been easy at all, but it was worth it. My son's life is a life. It's a gift from God, and I would not trade it for anything in the world. And to that end, it's made me think, you know, there was once upon a time I would probably think, well, incest, rape, these things like that. You know what? God gives us what he gives us, and he doesn't give us more than we can handle. And if you are put in that situation, if we really dig deep and really try to connect with God, you will see the blessing that these lives are in any way, shape, or form. And I really think that if we focused on that and approached it from that angle, we would be taking the resources that we're taking to kill these babies, and we would instead use that money and those resources to make sure that these babies have the best life that they could possibly have, that we have the most robust orphanage system, that we have the most resources available for single mothers to help them, and we're trying to make sure that we have a situation where the family unit is kept together, and that's another huge part of it.
To your point, let me just add to that. It's an issue that's near and dear to my heart also, because I'm a Florida baby. My older brother was a Florida baby. If you don't know what a Florida baby is, it means that the mother lives somewhere up north, and back in the day, the young daughter that got pregnant didn't have an abortion. They sent her to Florida to live with the grandparents and have the baby. That's exactly my brother, and that's exactly me. I never even knew that my older brother existed and was born at the exact same hospital that I was born at, and is 6 years older than me. My mother had him when she was 16 years old, and he was put up for adoption. We have to do a better job supporting the mother, supporting the family. If that wasn't in place 45 years ago, 50 years ago now, where my mother could have a baby and put it up for adoption, my half-brother would not be alive today. So if you want an issue that I will go knock on every door in the state of Florida to work for, it's to defeat amendments like Amendment 3. And I know that President Trump has kicked it back to a state level, but even on a federal level, I guarantee you that you have some people sitting at this table that would go to the end of the earth to protect every unborn life possible.
So I became a dad at 19. I was a teenager, so I actually took the year off after I graduated because I was going to save up to come to school here actually, so that I didn't have any debt when I started my life out. Small town, you get bored, you kind of look for fun where you can find it, right? Probably shouldn't have said that. No, but I've watched 4 children come into this world that I created. So the gift of life it's miraculous, it's beautiful, it's incredible. It changes everything about you. It changes your biology. It's incredible. It is a gift. And I think that there are a lot of people who would kill for that experience, but they just feel so alone. They feel like there's no other option. And when I was 18, when I found out I was going to be a dad, everybody assumed that we weren't going to keep the baby. Everybody assumed that that was the natural thing to do. I don't know if that's just the culture or whatever. They assumed that we weren't going to be able to do it. And look at me now. My daughter's 8 years old. She's in chorus. She's got a play coming up. She's not really good at sports. She played soccer for a year, and she ended up just sitting there playing finger puppets with the shadows the whole time. But she's a gift. She's an incredibly unique person. And I love her to death. And the idea that having a kid at an unideal time is going to hinder your progress or hurt your potential down the line. I think I'm living proof that that's not true.
Who wants?
So I have 2 kind of related questions.
You're coming up again.
That's
socialism. All right.
Someone else wants to go first. It's fine.
All right, go. I thought you were just standing there. Sorry, I didn't think you actually wanted a question.
My name is Ryan. I came from Ocala. I lost, and a lot of other American Floridians lost opportunities from the COVID vaccine mandate and the COVID measures. And I was curious your position on that. And what would you do different if there wasn't the COVID?
Yeah, this is really going to matter at the state level because honestly, they're probably going to try another COVID. And what you do differently is you don't let them use any sort of tragedy as a means to strip us of our rights. You don't use a tragedy, as tragic as it might have been, you don't use it as a means to force experimental vaccines on us. Definitely. to force us to wear masks in public, to criminalize the not wearing of masks. They pushed vaccine passports. Fortunately, Ron DeSantis saved it. Another thing, though, we have to get honest. No company, especially not Big Pharma, should ever have immunity for their products. If you're going to sell a product, you stand by that product. If that product hurts someone, we'll see you in federal court. It's that simple. And so when it comes to COVID, when it comes to any other sort of pandemic they try to push on us and the stripping of liberties, you have to stand firm. You have to remind ourselves that we have the federal government and we have the state government. The federal government cannot impose things on us unless we succumb to their fear. They don't have a right to push a vaccine mandate or a mask mandate in Florida. But if we succumb to the fear, then we lose the entire plot. And so don't cower, don't concede, never, ever, ever give it an inch. And if that day were to sadly ever come again, that's where I would stand on that issue.
I mean, if you look back at COVID, you could see that, we could just stay true to the Constitution and we probably would have been in a much better place. So that's really where it's at. Just stay true to the Constitution.
And the best part of COVID, by the way, as crazy as it might have been at times, it would have been a heck of a lot crazier if we didn't have the Second Amendment. If they would have come knocking on our doors saying, are your kids vaxxed, we're taking your kids, they would have gotten hit with the 223 AR-15 round. Right? And so, remember, that Second Amendment is the ultimate regulator. It is the ultimate check and balance on the government, on police, on anyone operating in excess.
This poor gentleman stands up for a while.
So I want to introduce you to the second Christian conservative faculty member here.
Whoa! You guys can have coffee together.
I'm a second generation UF engineering professor, and I'm a triple gator. I've voted Republican since the first election of Reagan in the early 80s. So I want to circle back on the issue of international students. And I'm going to say that I've graduated upwards of 60 PhD students over the past actually 3 decades. Maybe 85% are US students, but I did have some international students. One of my first PhD students was from France. He stayed in the States, became a US citizen, became the chief scientific officer for an engineering firm that developed a miniaturized proton accelerator for cancer treatment, and he lives in Boston with his wife. I had a male Korean student. He's now also in radiation therapy, treating cancer patients in the state of South Carolina. He lives in Charleston. I had a female Korean student. She stayed in the States, married a Texan, a native Texan, and she's at MD Anderson Cancer Center saving cancer patients. So I've got a Korean postdoc right now. He's mentoring 6 of my US students. I helped him write an NIH grant that'll keep him in the States in academia. And so these are all Americans, right? They came from international, but they are just as much an American as I am. So I just want you to think about that.
I think it's a great question. I would respectfully push back that they are just as American as you or anyone in this room. Just respectfully doesn't mean they're not afforded the equal dignity that we're commanded to as Christians. But what I will say is that those people are the exceptions to the rule. If you've got a kid who comes here from China or a kid who comes here from India and studies gender studies or English literature, that's very different. So here's what I would be in favor of. I would be in favor of a very small, limited pool of foreign students, essentially an O1 visa for the PhD graduate level program, where they are coming to contribute in very specific niche roles, and they have to be the best of the best. We often are told that if an immigrant does something great, it's just unbelievable, it's earth-shattering. But if an American does something great, it's the norm. I'll give you just one hypothetical example. If we were to walk out downtown Gainesville here and go over to McDonald's, and a Senegalese immigrant, good guy, good Christian guy, made an amazing McDouble, we wouldn't turn and say, gosh, those Senegalese guys really know how to make a cheeseburger. We would say, America, McDonald's makes really, really good cheeseburgers. And so I think there's this culture, there's this norm that anytime an immigrant, who very well may be impressive in his own right, does something, it's only they could do it. And it presupposes that an American could not cook that burger or do that research or contribute to our country. And so I don't want in any way to discount the incredible work. Thank you for what you've done as a professor and for mentoring these students. It sounds like we would largely keep all of those students here, but I would support an O1 visa program very similar for the PhD level.
Great.
Can I chime in for just a second? To your point, Professor, and I can't see you back there. You can sit down. The four of us are not going to agree on every single thing. Well, with all due respect, when you first started $1 million for every foreign student, that doesn't make sense to me.
Okay.
But the point is that we can sit here and we can have an open discussion about how to best serve every single Floridian and every single person in the United States at every single turn when we're potentially in office. That is our goal. We're not going to agree on everything 100% of the time, but we are certainly going to sit here and listen, and we're going to come up with a common sense approach where maybe it's an O1 visa, maybe it's XYZ, whatever it is. We're here to listen. We're here to put in the hard work, and we're here to make sure that every Floridian has a better life when we leave office.
And I don't disagree with that at all.
Immigration, both legal and illegal, is a problem. Illegal immigration obviously is intolerable, but our legal immigration system is also a mess. But let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. Let's not forget that we are a nation of nations. The thing that really makes us unique and special is the congregation of people that came here that made this. You know, go to China. What are they? They're all Chinese. Go to Germany. They're all German. Every country has its own people, and the United States earned its greatness from a collection of people from around the world, and I think we can respect that. I just think we need to make our immigration system make sense and work. And of course, we can't afford this nonsense that's happened with illegal immigration. We can't afford to give them Medicaid. We can't afford to give them food stamp. This is ridiculous the way that it was. But again, I would caution us against throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Just finding a way to make our legal immigration process proper and effective and efficient.
I totally agree, and I remember President Bush, also President Trump, wanted to do comprehensive immigration, but part of it was closing the border. And
yes, absolutely.
For citizens and dealing with that, and that was never.
Yeah, go back to the early 2000s. You'll hear Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, everybody on the Democratic side saying the exact same things Donald Trump was saying in 2016 when they labeled him a villain for it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just to touch on that real quick, sorry. Buddy back here mentioned the American dream in regards to his mother and her love for American men.
Was it men or man?
I think it was. It may have been singular man. We'll hope. While the American dream is out of reach for so many people, young people specifically, people in this room, we have to take care of each other first. You know, we can feel like, hey, I understand these guys want to come here for a better life and sympathize with that all we want. The fact of the matter is we have to take care of our own first.
For sure.
That's how I feel about it.
The basketball.
First off, thank you guys. It's Michael Jordan. First off, thank you guys for being here. I really appreciate it. My whole life I've been a conservative. My dad is Jewish. My mom is Christian. My best friend is Muslim. And where this is leading to is a question about Israel. When you look at October 7th, it wasn't an attack on just Jewish people. It was on Christians. It was on Catholics. It was anyone that attended that festival, right? By a small group of radical jihadist people, right? Obviously a small group. It doesn't resemble all of them at all. But I want to know, from someone who's been conservative my whole life and has kind of, from a rational sense, it seems very strategic to have someone in the Middle East that is fighting off these people that would hate anyone to do with America, freedom, right, or Christian Catholic values. You look at things like the Hamas Charter that say that the goal is the jihad of anyone that isn't their religion, right, Christian Catholic. I just wanted to kind of know where you guys lie on that. Anyone can answer the question.
To me, that's like the mentality of when we were in Afghanistan. Number one, when I was 19, 20 years old, we knew bin Laden was in Pakistan. And George W. Bush told the world, wherever he's at, we're coming into your country. No, full stop. We're coming to your country. And we knew he was in Pakistan, but no, we didn't bother going to Pakistan. So there was like this hypocritical attitude that existed. Now, in Afghanistan, then we asked ourselves, why are we here? And the underlying thought was, would you rather fight this war in Afghanistan or have this war fought in the United States? Meaning, if we're in Afghanistan, the resources of our enemy is going to be directed at fighting us in Afghanistan versus fighting in the States. Now, personally, that never made any sense to me. No, I would rather fight my own fights. I don't want somebody else to fight my fights for me, you know? But, you know, when it goes further, again, when we're talking about putting our country first, we have to stop putting other countries first. It's quite really that simple. You know, he's in favor of a two-state solution. Personally, I'm not. Personally, I've looked back on the Palestinian people and realized, wait a minute, you already have a state. It's Jordan, Syria. There's already places for these where Palestinians ethnically could call home. So I'm actually not for a supporter of a two-state. But again, that's not really into my business. That's the Israeli people to solve, because I'm here to focus on American issues and American needs.
Gotcha. I guess the last part of my question is just, is it not rational to have people that are fighting off people that hate Americans, that hate democracy, that hate any religion that isn't there? I mean, it seems for me that's a bonus, right?
Like, to me, it seems like we're allowing other people to fight a fight for us, and we're saying because that fight's happening over here, it's better for us. I caution to look at it that way. I think that's what led to Afghanistan, us being in Afghanistan for more than 20 years, the trillions of dollars that we spent there, the lies perpetrated so that Iraq became a war. You know, this is, again, now we're playing with other people's lives for our own benefit. And yeah, that's something that I would really be cautious against supporting, yeah.
Okay, I'm just curious what you think about that.
Absolutely. What's your name?
Clark.
Clark?
Yeah.
So I actually don't buy this idea that Israel is fighting off our enemies in a foreign country. I'm sorry, the Gazans don't have a means to get here. There's no airport. There's no money.
Exactly.
So when we say they're fighting off our enemies, are we determining that anyone who doesn't like America is our enemy? When we say we're fighting off an enemy, it's like they're about to board a plane with a suicide vest, come to New York City and blow up Times Square. That is clearly not what is happening. It's the same exact rhetoric we heard with respect to backing Ukraine. They're fighting our enemy with Russia. Why does Russia have to be our enemy? Why do we have to be pit against men who in many respects look just like us, who are Christian? Why do we have to hate them? It doesn't make any sense. And so at the end of the day, I'm actually in favor of just scaling it all back. I'm not going to have a position on the territorial boundaries of Ukraine and Russia or Israel and Gaza. I'm just not going to have a position on that. If you elect me governor, if you give me that awesome position, my position, my day, my energy is going to be focused on helping you, Clark, get a great paying job, buy a home, marry a God-fearing woman, raise a family, and when it's all said and done, retire with dignity. That's my job for you.
My name is Lena. Thank you for coming here. My question to you is, what is your stance on campus carry when it comes to the Second Amendment?
I fully support it. I fully support campus carry. I support it, and actually my friend Daniel Fogenholy at the State Board of Education, sadly after the tragic shooting at FSU, the problem, he supported this idea of campus carry because the idea is if none of us have a means to protect ourselves, none of us have a means to fight back, that's exactly the kind of place where we're going to see a mass shooting happen. There's a reason why they don't shoot up banks, because there's a guy with a gun. There's a reason why they don't shoot up police stations, because there's a guy with the gun. There's a reason why these sick, depraved, godless individuals come here, come to campuses, go to churches, go to schools, because they don't have guns. I'll tell you just my own thing. After the Ascension shooting in Minneapolis, I am now carrying a Glock to church every single Sunday, because I would hate to be in a position where not only defending myself, but defending my fellow Christians if we were faced with an attack like that. So my support is absolutely to sign that into law.
there.
I want to ask like a wonky question about property taxes. I think that there's a lot of merit to eliminating property taxes or rolling them back in the big counties with a big tax base, big industry. But Mr. Fishback, you live in Madison. I live in a farm 30 minutes north of here, so I have the green belt exemption on 30 acres, and I'm paying about a quarter in property taxes on 30 acres than what I was paying when I lived on a half acre in Pinellas County, for example. So, and you know, between here and Tallahassee are all the most rural, sparsely populated, least industrious counties in Florida, and most conservative. There's not a lot of DEI stuff going on in Madison County, in Leon County, in Leon for sure, Lafayette, et cetera, Bradford, Union. So their property tax base, the property taxes they generate are their how they generate basic services, and they're just trying to. Most of these counties, as you know, they're just trying to staff parks and get people outside to keep them from doing fentanyl, right? Some of the rural counties like really need this property tax base. So how do you square a pretty interesting concept of eliminating property taxes or lowering in these areas where there's definitely corruption in some of these counties versus like not totally annihilating these rural counties at the same time?
It's a great question and very wonky indeed. And he's right. I mean, yeah, look, in Orange County, where Orlando is, or Broward or Dade, where you've got huge tourist hotspots, it's easy to say we can eliminate property taxes. There's a lot of stupid, wasteful spending at the county level, but there's also massive tourism, occupancy taxes, right, that can make up for that. We don't really have that in rural counties like where I'm from, Madison, Lafayette, Bradford, et cetera. I think you got to do two things. I think you have to say just because something is a moral injustice, which is to say the wealth tax that is property tax, doesn't mean it can continue because it helps perpetuate the solvency of a county. You need to say that. Let the state step in and cover the gap for a short period of time. The longer term solution is actually to reinvigorate our rural communities, to make them the agricultural, citrus, cattle capitals they once were, the manufacturing capitals they once were, the textile capitals they once were. In downtown Madison, there's only about 3 businesses. Clearly, if you build it, they will come. We built a brand new Domino's. That place, it seems like the wait time is longer there than it is to get a pizza down where I grew up in Broward County. And so there's this prevailing notion that there isn't a lot of stuff in rural counties because no one wants it. No one wants stuff because there isn't a lot of stuff in the first place. Say's Law, Econ 101. If you build it, they will come. So my commitment is I'm never going to let our rural counties down. I'm always going to protect them. We're going to let property taxes get abolished. We're going to use state funds to patch up the difference. But the longer term vision, and hear me out, it's a little radical. The longer term vision is we can turn the Panhandle and our rural counties into the incredible places they are. Just 10 minutes up the road from where I live in Madison, there's a beautiful blue spring. You got people come from Germany, China, everywhere to swim in hundreds of feet of caverns, scuba diving. We have incredible natural beauty in Mariana and Jackson County. You got the Mill Pond. We got all this incredible beauty in Laurel Hill and Okaloosa County. We can bring natural tourism there. One thing I've said I would do is I'd bring back the Amtrak to the Panhandle. That allows people to come up there. It allows to have rural transportation, but it also increases the number. More economic activity means more revenue. Long-term, more revenue fixes the property tax.
If you're going to eliminate homestead property taxes in those areas, though, and then try to invite industry, but most of the tourism is from Madison, Blue Springs, for example. I mean, how do you square, like, let's have a phosphate mine right next to Madison, Blue Springs, because it will generate a lot of revenue and jobs, but it's also going to destroy some of the ecological beauty.
No, sorry, not the phosphate mine.
But just as an example.
No, but the idea is use the natural beauty of our state to sell our rural counties. Right. So we got an antique shop in Madison, 2 blocks from where I live. That antique shop is the most popular destination in town. When we can reinvigorate local businesses and invite people to come in and set up shop, we increase economic activity, we increase revenue, and that's how we keep our rural counties powering on.
One thing that I'll add to that is, and I didn't know until you posted it a week ago. One thing that you and I 100% agree on, I want to be able to take a train when I have to go to Tallahassee. Anybody that has to go to Tallahassee, or I was going to Fort Walton Beach, that is a miserable drive from Lake County, okay? On the federal level, I really want to work on the infrastructure side to be able to provide to our more rural counties and say, yes, it makes sense for us to be able to take the train from Orlando to New Orleans. That specific set of track was damaged during Hurricane Katrina. Today, if you want to take a train from Orlando to New Orleans, you have to go to Washington, D.C., and go down this way. It doesn't make any sense at all. So there are a lot of ways that the federal government on the infrastructure side, if we had representatives that actually cared about us, could actually pick up the phone and talk to the governor. I know that my congressional representative can't stand the governor, but we need to have a partnership on multi-levels of government to help those rural counties to understand the needs of the infrastructure, the development that we want to see in a responsible way. And someone had asked me a question the other day about how Republicans take care of the environment. I think Florida Republicans are probably different than anyone else on the planet. We care more about this state and our natural resources than, I guess, the Republicans in the other 49 states, because we want absolute pristine waters. We want our kids to be able to go fishing. We want clean air. We don't want geoengineered air, unless maybe that's why we didn't have a hurricane this year. I don't know. Different story. But we want to protect this state. Full stop.
But the leadership class in Tallahassee, not necessarily. I mean, there's a big schism within the GOP right now of rural Republicans and overdevelopment versus the kind of preemption that happens at the state level to kind of erode on the rural for people who want to protect the rural way of life, right? So there's kind of a schism within the party in the state.
And you're electing us to mend that schism for them in Washington, D.C., for me in Tallahassee. You're not just electing us on our vision. That's part of it. You're also electing us to say, are you willing, are you that kind of messenger, that communicator, that sort of leader who can actually sell this to both sides? Because I'll tell you, our rural counties have gotten shafted over the last 20 years. We need a governor who's going to stand up for them to revive their sense of identity. And one thing I'll say just in my announcement video, we filmed it in Marietta, and we showed a Confederate memorial that was there outside the Jackson County Courthouse. I want to be crystal clear. CNN tried to get me for comment. Do you disavow? Do you apologize? I will never apologize for our history. I will never allow anyone to tear down our monuments.
So I do agree with a lot of what you say, like affordability, the H-1B visas, but about 20% of our residents here in Florida are, foreign born or have foreign ties. So what would you do as governor to govern those people too and represent them, not just, I guess, American citizens?
It's a great question. So if you have foreign ties, if you're an immigrant that's already here, you're a naturalized citizen, that's not something for us to even really speak about. What we are talking about is the new wave of foreign immigrants, whether they're legal or illegal on TPS, on H-1B, that are going to come here and take jobs. And so my message to them, many of whom are Hispanic, my message to them is very simple. You still need to buy a home. You need to get a great paying job. You need to have the ability to live out the full arc of what we can do here in Florida to revive a sense of American identity here in our beloved state. And I'm going to fight for them. I'm going to fight. I was asked earlier today in an interview, what do you say to black Americans? I say to black Americans the same thing I say to white Americans. I'm going to fight for you every single day to make sure you can get a great paying job and afford to exist in this state.
And I appreciate you saying that, because if we're being real, it's pretty homogenous in here. So I appreciate you saying that, and it means a lot. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You tried to raise your hand 27 times.
But you didn't get up. He got up.
Fair enough. Thank you all for coming. Really appreciate it. My name is Craig Anderson, and here at the University of Florida, the Department of Gender, Sexuality, and Women's Studies has a class planned in 2026, the spring. It will frame abortion as a human rights issue, and it will be called Reproductive Health and Justice. If elected, will you shut this down and fire those responsible for this degeneracy?
Yes. So allow me to expand on that. If you go into Walmart, not everything is the same price. You got the good avocados, you got the bad avocados. The good ones are more than the bad ones. The problem with our education system is that whether you get a STEM degree or you get a degree in abortion human rights with a minor in sexuality, those are both the same price. We need a market-based system for education. The genuine true price for that sort of course would be maybe $10,000 to take it. Why? Because there's nothing of value to it. And so we need to totally reset expectations. People will criticize and say, well, how dare you pick winners and losers? Of course we're going to pick winners and losers. We don't let strip clubs open next to elementary schools. We don't let liquor stores open next to our Catholic churches. We're going to pick winners and losers. And to say that abortion is a human right, to spend valuable class time, taxpayer money on that is an abomination. Defund and deport.
I think we want to kind of wrap it up pretty soon, so maybe yours and one more thought.
Mr. Baker, I was just going to ask, you said you would not support the $1 million tuition for foreign students. I was going to ask why you think our state schools should be educating foreigners, because when you do that, you are taking away a seat from an American and giving it to a foreigner, which indicates that you think that somehow that foreigner is more capable than the American, and we did not become the greatest nation on earth by being incapable, we became the greatest nation by being the most capable.
So what I said specifically was I do not agree with this, that there's a black and white line right here. That it's either if you are a foreign-born student that you have to pay $1 million. I much agree with the idea that there may be some type of visa program available, whatever we want to call it. There are people in this world that are good for the United States. That's it. How many of those we need to educate and how many of those that we need to allow into this country, that's completely up for discussion. I don't have a perfect answer to that. I can guarantee you it's a lot less than what it is now. But there are still room for well-educated people that want to help us in this country. I know on the rural front, especially, we need more doctors. We need more doctors, we need more nurses in the rural communities. How are we going to get that? Well, either we're going to train Americans to do it, which would be my great preference right now. If we need to push people towards those fields. Stop the stupid classes about, abortion is a health right or what, whatever you want to call it. We really need to push people toward education in fields that is useful. I mean, it's basic trades and trades. I mean, it's common sense. Our government functions, especially on the federal level. Thank goodness we have Governor DeSantis, but our government just functions void of any reality. So I think that it's not an absolute hard line in my mind, that there is room for education.
Yeah, I don't necessarily know that there's a finite number of seats available either. Just because you're taking in an immigrant doesn't mean you're actually taking a seat away from somebody else. And we need to revamp our education system from the ground up in the first place. And then that starts with creating trade skills and training for trade skills, even at a junior high level or a high school level, getting wood shop and electricians trained before they even graduate from high school, to give people an opportunity to start taking on a profession that they can get behind, rather than being forced down the 4-year college program, because 4 years college is not for everybody as well. So a lot of people get into it, something they didn't really want to do from the start. It's just that this is what you do. So number one, I don't think there's a finite number of space available to where we're limiting somebody by allowing somebody else to go to school. And number two, if we started over with our education, we rebuilt our education system from the ground up to make it more effective and useful and meaningful to the 21st century, we would provide opportunities for people to bypass 4-year college and get straight into work straight out of high school.
Good professor had a good point earlier when he was bringing up specific students that he remembers from his past there. The way I see it, we want the best, we want the brightest. I think in this room we have some of the best and brightest people. But there are people who have unique perspectives, different backgrounds, I think that there's somebody who, what I like to do is when I go to the store, I go to the grocery store, I look at people and I think like, man, like, what is their unlocked capacity? What is their capability that they just haven't unlocked yet? They haven't seen their full potential. I think there's people all over the world like that, all over this country like that. But it doesn't mean 600,000 Chinese students get to come.
Of course.
That's not what that means.
I'll take this last one. I'll stick around and take some questions. I'm sure they may be able to too. Yeah.
So you talked, my name is Josh, I'm a student here.
Hey, Josh.
You've talked a lot about building on the successes that Ron DeSantis has had here in Florida and like, a lot of the policies he's passed. One of the advantages he's had is like a pretty unified party underneath him. His administration, they basically can hand out bills that the legislature can pass, so it's pretty efficient. The senators and representatives vote in lockstep with DeSantis. You're coming in without that unified establishment backing, without those high-level endorsements. How can you guarantee that you can rally the party, especially in the House and Senate, to vote and pass those bills towards your vision?
It's a great question. First off, I can't guarantee anything. Second off, the governor is having a very tough time these last couple of years with the legislature. We have a lot of Democrats who identify as Republicans in the Tallahassee legislature. And so I would respectfully challenge the premise of your question that the governor has a rubber stamp legislature to pass his agenda. My commitment to you is to get the job done, whether that's through the legislature or through executive action or through lawsuits or through bullying people. I am going to get the job done. That is my goal. And let's give you a perfect example of this. Call up the CEO of Disney. Say we're going to put out $4 million of ad buys using state money across the state about the foreign workers that are working at Magic Kingdom, when we've got kids right here in Florida would be happy to take those jobs, working the rides, working concessions, playing Goofy and Minnie Mouse. We got people right here who can do that. And we're going to run a $4 million ad campaign tomorrow morning unless you end that program and hire 10,000 Floridians for those jobs over the next 6 months. You have 24 hours. I'm not negotiating. Tell me your answer by 8 a.m. That's how you get the job done. I don't need the do-nothing legislature to stop me from standing up for you.
All right, guys, I'm going to wrap it up only because again, we're kind of reaching time here. Yeah, I don't know if you guys are going to be staying around. I'm going to let you guys mingle. We still do have just a couple minutes left with the room. So if they want to take any more questions afterwards or even pictures or anything like that, that's I'll leave it up to those guys. With that being said, once again, I'd like to thank all of you for coming. I appreciate it from the very bottom of my heart. Seriously, I think this is a great event that we're ending the semester on this year, and I look forward to maybe seeing some of you in the coming semesters, coming to some of our general body meetings or anything like that. I'm going to hopefully try to bring as many candidates as possible. I tried to keep the time here, pretty long, just so I want to make sure all of these candidates, very qualified, very good candidates, get a platform to speak. But with that being said, I think we're going to wrap it up here, guys. I hope you all have a good night and, a Merry Christmas as well, because that's coming up. So thank you.